All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another episode of the Facts Over Feelings podcast. This is episode number 72, and I am once again joined by my co-host over here, Trevor Kaufman. And
I don't want to do this podcast.
I would say that it's good that we've had a few days for Trevor to digest what happened over the weekend.
We'll get to that.
We will definitely get to that in just a moment. But we wanted Trevor to start this podcast off really by just talking about what's left of the NFL playoff picture, right? So, from the teams that are left, who do we like? Who do we think will win these matchups? Who do we think is the favorite, to win the Super Bowl, get to the Super Bowl at this point? So Trevor, I'll kind of just hand it off to you to get us started on, what you think with the playoff picture.
Yeah, I'll be brief here. I'm pretty disheartened by what happened Monday night to my Cardinals. We'll get to that in a little bit. But to talk about the playoff picture, Ryan, I'm breaking it down into three games. The Kansas City-Buffalo game is the true AFC Championship game because the winner of that game will will handily beat Cincinnati or Tennessee. I don't care if they're playing it in Cincinnati. I don't care where they're playing it. The winner of Kansas City-Buffalo will go to the Super Bowl. I would be willing to throw money on that right now. Heading over to the NFC, I think these are the four best teams in the NFC. I hate to say it. Dallas was fraudulent. My Cardinals, to a certain extent, were a little fraudulent. And look, San Francisco got healthy throughout the year. Jimmy Garoppolo kind of grew into his own a little bit. I felt like the defense really played better in the second half of the season. So give the 49ers credit. They're playing great football right now. These are the four best NFC teams. With that being said, I do expect a rematch of last year's NFC Championship game in Green Bay once again. I do have the Packers winning, and I also have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning. However, I think the really interesting thing for the Los Angeles Rams is the Rams running game seems to have found a new gear with Cam Akers coming back. And by the way, Cam Akers coming back 5.5 months after an Achilles tear is a medical miracle. I mean, considering how long it took Kevin Durant to come back, how long it took Klay Thompson to come back, 5.5 months is just ridiculous. I forgot who the doctor is who did his surgery, but that guy's going to be getting a lot of patience in the near future, I would guess.
Yes, he will.
So I do think with Cam Akers, the Rams are very interesting because their running game has taken a new level. And look, it's taken a lot of pressure off Stafford. We saw it in the wild card game. The running game controlled the game. Stafford maybe had to throw, 20 times the entire night, and they were easy passes. It was a lot of play action. I mean, there were a lot of guys running wide open just because of coverage breakdowns. But with the ability of Cam Akers to get 8 yards a carry, Matthew Stafford didn't have to do very much. And because he's a little inconsistent, I think the running game can mask his inconsistency a little bit. With that being said, don't bet against Tom Brady. It's hard to beat him twice in one season. I got the Buccaneers. I got the Packers. And my Super Bowl prediction right now is I got the Bills coming out of the AFC and I got the Packers coming out of the NFC.
Wait, is it the Packers?
I got the Packers beating the Bucs. It's Aaron Rodgers' year.
Wow, this is interesting. So, I'll start off in the NFC here. And there's a couple of points you made on the Rams that I'll address when we get to that Cardinals-Rams game, because I know we're going to talk about that a little bit in a few minutes here. But just starting off, I like what you said just a second ago. You said, these are the four best teams in the NFC. And, I think you're exactly right. Like, look, here's the thing. Like, I was joking about it throughout the year. But, before the season, Trevor, we when we're looking at the Cardinals, right? We looked at the Cardinals as, maybe being last in that division, right?
A 500 team.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, so, right? So, they got off to a hot start as they did for the second year in a row, this time even hotter than last year. They faded just as they did last year. And
they collapsed. I wouldn't use the word faded.
Yeah, okay. They collapsed.
Point being.
Yeah. And, I would say most people weren't really confident in them, right? Cardinals fans aside, most people, the betting world, just the sports world, I don't think people are very confident in the Cardinals going into these playoffs. And why would they be? So point being, like, you're totally right. They weren't a part of the top four. The Cowboys as well, a really weird team, Trevor. I mean, they seem to just not show up in big moments. It's really weird. I don't know why. I've never been a fan of Mike McCarthy as a head coach, at least not in this recent tenure. I think that that was a mistake to hire him. I think that they win in spite of him, not because of him. And so I think that in and of itself is an issue that they need to fix that. So Dallas just underperforms consistently for me. It's just weird. So anyway, I liked your point that these are the top four teams because they are. Now getting to, these matchups, I think the Niners are going to be tough for the Packers, right? I think they're definitely
They
going to
will
be a
be.
tough out, right? Lambeau's a really hard place to play. The Packers, are rolling this year, Trevor. I mean, right? Rodgers is better than ever. That defense finally got healthy. I believe Zadarius
Hmm.
Smith is back. I believe Jair Alexander has returned. Um, they're healthy on that side of the ball. They're healthy on both sides of the ball. They got Bakhtiari back, the left tackle, the All-Pro left tackle in the final week of the season. So they're really
Hmm.
healthy. But my thing is like we've seen them, Trevor, and the Niners did this soon. What 2, 3 years ago? They beat the brakes off the Packers 2, 3 years ago by 20 to
It's true.
30 points in the playoffs. The Packers have done the same thing the Cowboys have done in the past. They don't show up typically in the playoffs. Now, sure, they've got, look, Rodgers has gone all the way before, right? But like, let's be honest here. Like, we've seen the Packers, in the playoffs underperform, right? And so, do I expect them to blow out San Fran? No. Do I expect it to be a close game? Yeah. I bet on the Packers, but Trevor, I would not be surprised at all if the Niners won this game. So, just keep an eye on this game. It's a tough
Hmm.
matchup for the Packers. It's going to be a fun one. I'm glad we get to see this matchup. And then the Bucks and the Rams, Trevor, look, I'll make this brief. I think the Bucks are better than the Rams. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Rams are good. They're rolling on both sides of the ball right now. They have extreme talent on both sides of the ball, but I can't bet against Tom Brady, Trevor. The Bucks defense, the front seven's elite. The
Hmm.
secondary is fine. It's good enough, I think. And Brady in the playoffs, I'm not going to bet against them. Sure, they have no Brown or Godwin, but they still got Gronk. They still got Evans. And they're getting Fournette back this week, Trevor, I believe. So that's going to be a big boost for them. I can't bet against the Buccaneers, especially at home. So I think the Bucks are going
Agreed.
to win that. And then really the AFC, Trevor, really not much here. I mean, honestly, like the Titans, look, I feel like we always underrate them. They feel like a fraudulent 1 seed to me, Trevor. I'm going to be
They
honest
are.
with you. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Bengals won this game. Um, really, I almost expect them to win this game, Trevor. I think that they could very well win by double digits. I mean, their offensive firepower, they can do it. So we'll see how that goes. But KC Buffalo, Trevor, this is going to be an interesting one. I really think that KC's going to win. I think that Buffalo's good. I think Buffalo's very good, actually. And they've gotten stronger each week, seemingly, Trevor, into the playoffs and last week against the
Hmm.
Patriots. So they could easily win this game and prove me wrong. But I don't really like to bet against Mahomes at his home field. His offense is fully healthy. Outside of CEH, who really is
Yes.
inconsequential at this point. To be honest, like they really play
Agreed.
better without him or just as well without him. So he's kind of irrelevant. Defense is pretty healthy. That's not too relevant. As long as they contain Buffalo and don't let them go off for like 45 or 50 points, I think they win this game, Trevor. So I'm going to go with KC there. At the end of the day, Trevor, I mean, again, it's really boring, but I don't know how you can bet against KC and Tampa Bay. But I would look out for that. I would look out for that Niners upset, though. I really think the Niners could beat the Packers, and I think that's something that people might not be looking at as closely as they should. So I don't know if you have
Keep
any
an
other
eye.
thoughts on this. Yeah.
Keep an eye on the weather in that Packers game as well. It's supposed to be one of the coldest games in NFL history.
Oh, is it
So
actually?
it's supposed to be like, I would look it up. It's supposed to be disgustingly cold.
Wow.
So that might also have an impact on both teams. I would probably favor Green Bay since they're used to playing in cold weather this time of year. But we'll see how San Francisco reacts to freezing cold weather. And again, I'll go back to the Buffalo KC game real quick because I think this
Yeah.
is going to be the most interesting game of the weekend. I think Green Bay, they're getting healthy. I think they're going to beat San Fran. I wouldn't say easily, but I would be very surprised if San Fran won this game.
Yeah.
Just a lot of traveling for the 49ers, the weather, Green Bay's well rested. And Green Bay did a very smart thing, Ryan.
Mm.
Aaron Rodgers played the first half of that last regular season game.
I agree.
So it's always that rest versus rust argument. And I think when you get 2 weeks off, you got to at least play a half. You got to get game reps. You can't go 3 weeks without throwing a pass in game. So I think Green Bay was very smart to do that. Real quick on Kansas City Buffalo. Here's the only thing working against my Bills because I actually think they have the better roster. I like their defense from top to bottom. They have a very good front seven. They have a very good secondary. Josh Allen seems to be hot right now. I like their receivers. Even their running game has found a little bit of a boost with Devin Singletary. The only thing going for Kansas City is it's a rematch. So Kansas City has a lot of film on what they did very wrong early in the regular season against this Buffalo Bills team. But look, I think this is Buffalo's year. I really do. I believe in Josh Allen. I think people kind of sold their stock on Buffalo because of some of those regular season games where it looked ugly. But we saw last weekend how good this offense can be, and we saw how good Josh Allen can be. So I am picking the Buffalo Bills outright, but I think that is going to be a fantastic playoff game. And the winner of that game, as I said, is going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's entirely plausible. I don't know, Trevor.
Hard to bet against Mahomes.
I can't
disagree with you there.
I don't know. I have a tough time betting against arguably the best quarterback of the generation. I mean, look, like, but the thing is both of these teams, Trevor, have gotten hot as the season went to a close.
That's true.
Here, right? I mean,
they're both playing their best football.
Yeah, I mean, KC struggled mightily, right, to start the year, and we had Jack Eden on here, our boy, and he said it. I mean, he seemed to be real down on them. We were all kind of down on them, but at the end of the day, you can't worry about teams with Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce on the same roster. I think that, right, look, at the end of the day, either team could win. Josh Allen's hot. Yeah, I don't think Buffalo's run game is very good, Trevor, honestly. I know Singletary's okay, but, I don't know. I think the difference is home field, honestly. If Buffalo had home field, if it was in cold weather, maybe some snow, or even just, up in Buffalo where those fans are super rowdy. Both teams have very, very loud fan bases. I think that really might make the difference, honestly. But we'll see what happens. I do agree with you. Whichever team wins that game comes out of the AFC. So we'll see how that goes, Trevor. I don't have really anything else to add other than, just to say, if it's super cold in Green Bay, Trevor, I don't think that really hurts San Fran that much. Barring like some weird, like Jimmy G not being able to throw very well when it's super cold. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think that they'll be fine. Mm-hmm. They run the ball really effectively, right? And they're a great defensive team. So, I honestly think that definitely won't hurt them. Maybe might even help them a little bit. So, we'll see how that game goes. I mean, I don't know how cold it's going to be, but if it's like 0 degrees, that's going to be wild. So, Trevor, we'll see what happens there. But we'll see how these games go this weekend. I'm excited, but Trevor, I think we can move on to talk about a couple games real quick. From this past weekend, and if you don't mind, I was going to start off with the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
I'll make this pretty brief, Trevor. Honestly, I just wanted to say 2 things. One, I'm really disappointed in the Patriots, right? I think everybody is. They got they just got beaten to death. I mean, they just got absolutely obliterated this past weekend, Trevor. They came out flat. It was really strange. A Belichick-led team, Trevor. I mean, this didn't look like a Belichick-led team to me. I mean, they weren't tackling well. They weren't executing well. They didn't look like they had much energy. I don't know. I mean, the only positive I have to say, Trevor, is Kendrick Bourne's a good player. But, was it worth it from Bill Belichick, Trevor, to sign all of those free agents in the offseason to all of that guaranteed money? Did it really pay off? And I would say probably not, right? You gave a guy like Nelson Aguilar, Trevor, $12 million a year. I mean, and he goes and gets you 1 catch in a playoff game. I mean, that's a complete waste of money. I mean, he had a few nice signings, Trevor, but, I've been disappointed with the way he's managed the roster. I was disappointed with the way they showed up in this playoff game. And, they got insanely outclassed by the Bills. It was just way too easy. 21 for 25 for Josh Allen, Trevor. I mean, I get he's good, but you're the Patriots defense in the playoffs. I mean, you've been good all year. You guys have won 10 games, and this is how you perform in the playoffs. It was really disappointing, Trevor. I thought the Bills would win. I think we all expected the Bills to win, but I don't think anyone expected them to win by 30. So, I was surprised. I was disappointed. The run game was ineffective, which is really weird. 20 carries for 90 yards from, a nice duo of Stevenson and Harris. I mean, that's pretty terrible. So, disappointed in the Patriots. I'm surprised by Belichick. And I think that all that salary he took on in the offseason, Trevor, it's going to come back to bite him.
Well, look, I have a little bit of a slightly different view of this football game.
Okay.
One, I thought Buffalo was going to win. I had a parlay that had Buffalo winning this game. Buffalo is clearly the better team. Now, we can go into how Belichick may have mismanaged this roster and he gave out too much guaranteed money. I think that's a separate issue.
Yeah,
but I think the point at hand is, with the roster that he had, with the personnel that he had, I think this New England team overperformed. I think Mac Jones overperformed. I think their receivers of Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, their running game, I think this entire team, even their defense, this entire team in general, throughout the entire season overperformed. And they came back down to earth. They played a really good Buffalo team with a lot of playoff experience. They have an elite quarterback, an elite head coach, an elite wide receiver a borderline elite defense with elite players on that defense, and the better team won. Now, was Buffalo going to win this game by 30 points? I don't think a lot of people thought that was going to happen. But home playoff game, rookie quarterback for the opposing team on the road. What did we expect from New England? I get this was a very disappointing performance, but Buffalo, okay, maybe I'm being a little too nice here, but New England definitely did not play well, but I definitely am not surprised that Buffalo won this game.
Yeah.
I think New England overperformed. The only scary thing for me about this game was Buffalo didn't – I think Buffalo scored a touchdown on every possession except when they kneeled.
Yeah.
They scored 8 touchdowns on 8 possessions, and then on their 9th possession, they kneeled the ball out to win the game.
Insane.
That I don't think that has ever happened in Bill Belichick's career. I think that's the first time Bill Belichick has ever been thoroughly outcoached like that. I mean, where you can't even get a stop. You literally can't hold a team to a field goal. They're literally marching up and down the field and scoring a touchdown every time. I don't think that's ever happened to a Bill Belichick defense. And this is a good Bill Belichick defense. This was a top 5 defense in the NFL with really good personnel. So that was very, very, very surprising to me. The result itself was not that surprising. Yeah, it could have been a closer game. I was expecting a closer game, but the better team won. The team with more playoff experience won. And look, Mac Jones is a rookie quarterback on the road in his first playoff game. He was bound to struggle. And I'll say it again, New England overperformed. They came back down to earth, and give Buffalo their credit. I think Buffalo played a great game, and they beat the brakes off the Patriots, simple as.
100%. And look, you're 100% right. And I'll be super quick here. You're 100% right, Trevor. I mean, look, the Patriots overperformed this year. We all know it. I didn't expect them to make the playoffs. If they did, I expected them to sneak in, and they didn't really sneak in. They were pretty much in.
They clinched a
couple weeks ago. Yeah, exactly. So, they overperformed 100%. They played better than most people thought. They played better than I thought. They played better than you thought as well. But Trevor, look, at the end of the day, if you're walking into the playoffs with a berth a week or two early, and you're coached by arguably the greatest, at least regarded as the greatest head coach in NFL history, and you go out and lose by 30, I just, I expect more when you perform at this level throughout the season, right?
Agreed.
That's all, and I 100% agree they overperformed on the year. But I didn't expect the Belichick-led team to get beat by 30 and just have literally zero answer for a team that they played twice, Trevor, earlier this season, right?
Right.
I mean, they had already played them twice, so you'd think they would have some kind of answer, but they had none. So yeah, I mean, they got thoroughly outclassed on both sides of the ball. I don't really put any blame on Mac Jones because the guy played exceptionally well this year, Trevor. They limited him a little bit throughout the year, but he was by far and away the best rookie quarterback, Trevor. And I think, that's not up for debate at all. So, that's
but that's a separate issue.
Yeah. We can talk about that later. Not that he'll be the best one, in the careers. It's not set in stone, whatever. But point is they overperformed this year, but it was a disappointing playoff game. But Trevor, we can move on and, real quick, talk about the game that I know you don't really want to talk about, but I think it has to be talked about. And that's the Rams and the Cardinals. So, Trevor, from a Cardinals fan, what happened?
Look, I've thought about this for a few days, Ryan, and I can only put it this way. And the Cardinals just completely melted and broke down and lost composure on Monday Night Football. I mean, it was simple as I've never seen a team completely forget how to play offense. And look, this is an offensive-minded head coach. This is an offense that has had success against the Rams this year. And the fact that we started the game, this was my favorite thing. I saw a rant from John Gambadoro, who's a pretty well-known Arizona sports guy.
Yeah.
He goes, you start the game 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. 4 times in a row, you start the game 3 and out. And the next 2 possessions got worse. A fumble, or maybe it was a pick 6, and it was an interception. And I think that's just the story of the game. The Cardinals offense forgot how to play football. Kyler Murray played his worst game of his entire career. It wasn't even close. Cliff Kingsbury once again gets thoroughly outcoached by Sean McVay and Raheem Morris. And look, I should have seen this coming. Look, this is Cliff Kingsbury and the new Cardinals MO. We get off to a hot start. Everybody falls in love with the team. And all of a sudden, everything falls apart, and there's no explanation why. Cliff Kingsbury, after every game down the stretch of this offseason, he made it sound like he had no idea what was going wrong. We're just beating ourselves. We need to clean things up. No, I think what happened was people just picked up on what he was doing offensively, scheme-wise, especially a team that you've already played twice. I just think the Cardinals got figured out by everybody in the NFL. And you started to see it down the stretch, of the season. You don't bull rush Kyler Murray. You kind of spy him. And if you can get pressure on him that way, he's got nothing, because if he can't roll out, he's too short to play in the pocket. I know he's trying to prove that he can be a pocket passer, and he's not a bad pocket passer, but he's short, and it's hard for him to see over linemen. And if you can keep him in the pocket and get pressure on him, he's not very effective. That's exactly what we saw Monday night. Now, for the Cardinals' future, I've thought about this. I'm back and forth on it. I don't think Cliff Kingsbury should be fired anymore, and here's why. I've changed my opinion on this several times, and here's why. We have to keep into consideration. We have to consider what Cliff Kingsbury was going up against this year. He was in the best division in football, 3 double-digit win teams, 3 playoff teams. He won 11 games. He led the Cardinals to their first playoff appearance in 7 years. He has developed Kyler Murray, and I know Kyler Murray tends to fade, as this entire team does, in the second half of the season. But I think that's something, I don't know if that's something you can fix, but that's something that you can at least address and maybe try and figure out. And finally, Cliff Kingsbury is on the 4th year of his 4-year contract. So I don't think that you should fire him in terms of trying to save a little bit of money, because you'd have to probably buy him out if you fired him a year early. I would give him 1 more year. He made the playoffs. Yes, it was a humiliating performance, but give this team 1 more opportunity. Bring everybody back. Keep Zach Ertz. Get DeAndre Hopkins healthy. Get J.J. Watt healthy. And maybe get another corner in the offseason and see what happens. I don't know. I think the roster is good enough to win a lot of games. Yep. We'll see. Cliff Kingsbury might not be the answer, but I think we should give him the 4th year of his final deal. He's gotten better every year, right? His first year was 5 wins. Last year was 8 wins. This year was 11 wins. So I think he does deserve his 4th year of the contract. Look, he's on very thin ice. I'm very back and forth on this issue. I have to look at it positively. I just think he's moving this team in the right direction every year. And I think Kyler Murray has gotten a little bit better every year. I know this year he faded pretty hard at the end of the season, but I think the development is there, and I think the roster is there, and I think Cliff deserves 1 more shot.
Look, honestly, here. I'm going to talk about Cliff, actually, Trevor, because here's the thing. And I actually, I go back and forth on this as well. And it's the tough thing, Trevor. It's the same thing that Dallas has, right? They have Mike McCarthy, right?
Brian, real quick, I'm going to stop you, actually. As I say all this, right? My buddy just sent me a tweet. He goes, there was a tense meeting involving Cardinals owner Michael Bidwell, GM Steve Keim, and coach Cliff Kingsbury yesterday. Per source, Bidwell, who's the Cardinals owner, was unhappy with late season slide and intimated changes were possible. So as I say that, Cliff Kingsbury might be out the door, but go ahead.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, Trevor, here's the thing about Cliff Kingsbury, and it's a little different than McCarthy, Trevor. Kingsbury, when he was brought in, what was he praised for? What was he lauded for? What was his big thing?
He's a quarterback guy.
Energetic offense, guru. Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's gonna, pass heavy offense. He's worked with some quarterbacks in college who, sling the ball around. Yeah, Mahomes being one. Right, and that was kind of what he was brought in for. Right, and what have we seen, Trevor? Recently, we've seen the Cardinals go, at least in my opinion, not only more run heavy than I would typically think a Kingsbury offense would do, but we've had comments, and I can't point to a specific one right now, but I saw a tweet, I believe it was from someone in the front office of the Cardinals, talk about how they want to run the ball 25 to 30 times a game. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking,
that's an interesting. Okay.
Why would you? So why are you saying that as a front office member of the Arizona Cardinals if you have a head coach in Cliff Kingsbury who loves to throw the ball? Like, that's his thing, right? He's not a guy who's going to run it down the middle, nose to the grindstone. He's not a Kevin Stefanski type guy where he's going to be run heavy to open up the pass, right? Kingsbury is more of a gunslinger type play caller and coach. So to me, we're at a point where it's like, do the two visions match? And I don't know if they do. And And we can debate Kingsbury's game in-game decision making, right? I know I've had my doubts about it before. I know, you've also had your doubts about it before. That's a whole separate issue. If this whole thing about clashing visions wasn't a thing, then I think that Kingsbury should definitely stay and get one more shot. But because it seems like the front office, or at least some people up there want to run the ball a lot more, have a different type of vision for the offense, than your head coach, it's like, can this really work? And not only can it work in the regular season, Trevor, but can it work effectively in the playoffs against the best, right? Against elite teams. And you can't have clashing visions when you're trying to win a title, right? So,
Right.
I don't think Kingsbury will be fired. Do I think he maybe should be if that's what they want to do, the front office? Yeah. If they don't fire Kingsbury, they should certainly make sure everyone in the front office is on the same page as Kingsbury is, because that gives them the best shot at winning. A GM with trying to focus roster construction around what the head coach wants to do is always the best bet. Point being, Trevor, I don't know if he should stay, and we'll see what happens. But I wanted to talk about that for a second. And then just talking about the game, Trevor. Look, the Cardinals look lost. I don't really know. I turned this game off before halftime, Trevor. I knew this was done. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe at one point Odell Beckham Jr. had more passing yards than Kyler Murray. I mean,
That is correct.
I mean, Trevor, it was just, I don't know. It was unbelievable.
It was a little inexplicable. I agree.
It reminded me, Trevor, of the way the Steelers came out against the Browns last year. It's just like what's going on here? This isn't how is this happening? It doesn't make any sense. You wouldn't think the Cardinals come out this flat, this bad. An elite offense like that coming out with less than 40 passing yards from Kyler Murray in an entire half. I mean, that's unbelievable.
I agree. It was
right?
It was not good.
So, it's really can't be explained in any way other than they were just either ill-prepared or just outclassed or caught off guard. I don't know. And they looked like deer in headlights, Trevor, and it was another Cardinals collapse. So, they need to figure that out. It reminds me of the Cowboys, Trevor. They continually collapse at the end of the year or in the playoffs. I don't know what's going on. They need to figure it out. We'll see what happens. Firing Kingsbury, is that the answer? I don't know. We'll see, Trevor, but I hope Buda Baker's okay. Shout out to him as well. I hope, I heard 100%. He's doing all right. I heard he's doing better, but that was a scary hit. So,
it was.
I'm glad he's doing okay. But anyway, I don't know if you have any final thoughts on this game, Trevor.
Yeah. One final thing I'd like to say, look, Cardinals, it was a really good season for the most part. And look, there was the late season slide, and I don't know why that is. It's happened 2 years in a row. That needs to be solved. And if that isn't solved, Cliff Kingsbury will be out the door. And I would be right there with you. I'd be glad he'd be fired. What I will say is this, and this is going to be directed at Kyler Murray. That was one of the worst games he has ever played. And I hope that is the worst game he will ever play. And there's two ways he can respond to a performance like that. He can respond like Jake Delhomme did back in 2009 when he threw 5 interceptions in the divisional round of a playoff game against my Cardinals, and nobody ever heard from the guy ever again. Or Kyler Murray can come back next year, figure out how to finish seasons and really grow from this, because he has the potential to be a great quarterback in this league. He was a Pro Bowler this year, and I think he can be great. But a performance like that is inexcusable, and maybe he gets a little bit of a pass because it's his first playoff game, but he won't get a pass ever again. And look, you and I know this, Ryan. Quarterbacks aren't replaceable, but quarterbacks can lose their job really quickly. We've seen it with Baker Mayfield. Everybody wants him gone now. And that can happen with Kyler Murray. And I look at Kyler Murray, and I'm going to compare him to Baker Mayfield for a second.
Wow.
What has Kyler Murray done that Baker Mayfield hasn't? Kyler Murray won 11 games. Baker Mayfield won a playoff game.
Yep.
I'm just saying, look, if Kyler Murray wants to be regarded as a top-tier quarterback, he needs to respond to this next year, and he needs to come out with an MVP-like campaign for the whole season. Because I'm not going to brag about him anymore. Week 8. I'm not going to come on this podcast after week 8, Ryan, when we're 7-1 and go, Kyler Murray is the front runner for MVP. I've learned my lesson. It's taken me 2 years, but I've learned my lesson. I'm going to see through the whole 17 games, can the Cardinals and Kyler Murray sustain a performance like this? If they can, then Kyler Murray's our quarterback of the future. If not, then he's going to end up like Baker Mayfield.
Wow. And I'm not going to harp too much on this because I know we have an NBA team to get to before we wrap up. But Trevor, look, it's honestly a really interesting thing, right? Because, look, Kyler's regarded as an MVP candidate at one point in this season. And I mean,
I was
look
I
at
was
him.
I was I was pushing that.
Yeah, you were leading that train, right? And look at him now, right?
I was leading Cliff for Coach of the Year.
Trevor,
It's a lot. A lot's changed.
Trevor, let me ask you this before we move on. Because of the end of the season and the playoff game that we watched on Monday night, is Kyler a top 10 quarterback in this league right now?
Look, recency bias would say no, but I think if we look at the full scope of what he has done throughout his first 3 years as a quarterback and what he did this
Sure.
year, I would say he is.
Okay. Just curious.
I mean, I could think of probably 6 or 7 quarterbacks I'd rather have right now. I mean, Rodgers, Mahomes, Wilson, Herbert, Burrow,
Brady.
Brady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lamar, maybe?
I mean,
I don't
Lamar,
know.
maybe. There's maybe Russell Wilson. So there's like 7 or 8 guys I'd probably have over Kyler Murray.
Sure.
But I'd say he's in the bottom end of the top 10. That's probably where I'd put him.
That's fair. I was just curious on what your thoughts were on that because, look, at the end of the day, right, he hasn't won a playoff game yet, Trevor. Correct me if I'm wrong. And, I mean, look, you can make all the excuses you want, but at some point, right, I mean, you've said it with Baker before, right, Trevor? At some point, the quarterback has to take accountability for the team not winning, in big moments and big games.
And he might get a pass because it was his first playoff game and he's never played that bad of a game before. But he's got next year to really prove if he is the long-term franchise answer for this team, because I expect playoff wins. Maybe I'm just watching my Suns too much and I expect greatness in every sport. But Kyler Murray's going to have to produce, and he's going to have to produce for 17 games, and he's going to have to do his best to stay healthy, because I do think injuries have also been part of the reason why his seasons have derailed towards the end as well.
Sure. And what have I been saying about Baker Mayfield? Injuries are the problem. But look, Trevor, we'll see what happens, Trevor. We'll see if the Cardinals can bounce back next season. But Trevor, until that time, we can move on. And I think we'll talk about one quick team here, Trevor, before we wrap up this podcast here. And, Trevor, if you don't mind, how about you take it away? Trevor, I just want to say, put down a team that I wasn't expecting, and I appreciate that he did this. He put down the Cleveland Cavaliers to talk about. And, Trevor, I just want to say I really appreciate it. So why did you want to talk about the Cavs? Have they surprised you yet again?
They have. Real quick, Ron, I do want to say Ryan wanted to talk about the Lakers, and we will talk about the Lakers on the next podcast. So
there's a lot to talk about the Lakers, but
there's a lot to talk about because we need more time to talk about them. But we'll talk about the Cavs real quick, and I got to show the Cavs some love because Ryan, what did I say on this podcast? Talk to me when the Cavs have played 30 or 40 games. That's the sample size I want to see when I address how legit a team is. And how many games have the Cavaliers played now? 45, I believe.
It's 45 or 46, yes.
46 games, you're right in the thick of it in the East. And I was wrong about this team. I said this team would be a play-in team, borderline. I thought they would be closer to the 9 or 10 spot in the East. And I was wrong. This team is a lot better than I thought. They're a very good defensive team. They have a very good point guard in Darius Garland. They have a couple of elite, young, I should say borderline elite, going on elite big men. And Evan Mobley, who will be an all-star in this league in a couple of years. And Jared Allen, who's a very capable starting 5, who might be $15 million cheaper than DeAndre Ayton, but plays maybe $3 million cheaper than DeAndre Ayton. So I got to give the Cleveland Cavaliers a lot of credit. They're a very good away team. They're young. They're exciting. And I got to give JB Bickerstaff a lot of credit. I think he's done an excellent job. I think the players, it's a lot like my Phoenix Suns. I think there's a culture there. I think the players love playing for him. I think they all genuinely like seeing each other's successes. And I just wanted to shout out the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm trying to be the bigger man. Ryan never gave me props for my Phoenix Suns until it was the NBA Finals last year. I'm trying to be the bigger man and give him his props about his Cleveland Cavaliers. They're playing great basketball right now. They beat Brooklyn recently, which is always a big win. They seem to have Brooklyn's number, which is kind of weird. And look, this team is 2.5 games out of the 1 seed in the East. The East is very bunched up at the top right now. Cleveland could honestly host a playoff series. I think that's very reasonable and very possible for them to achieve. But right now, they're playing great basketball, and I was wrong about them. I have a big enough sample size now to say that this Cleveland Cavaliers basketball team is a legitimate playoff basketball team.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, Trevor. And look, hey, I just want to say I did predict the Phoenix Suns would beat the Bucks in the finals. I ended up jumping on the train, Trevor. Unfortunately, it was a little too late. But look, I tried to give the Suns a little bit of props. I did, yeah. And I'm not sorry about it, okay? But look, Trevor, I'm glad you brought up the Cavs. It's been 46 games now, Trevor, and they've proven they belong at the top. right? Now, maybe we're 1 or 2 scores away from really being like an actual threat in the East. I would say that we need to get one more score, whether that's going to be this year, or whether that's going to be waiting until next season. We'll see. I don't know if we'll make a move at the deadline. But Trevor, look, this team, you said it yourself, great defensive team, Trevor. 100%. Third in defensive rating, Trevor. Allows the least amount of free throw attempts per game, does not foul while being physical with 3 7-footers, which is really, really hard to do, Trevor. Top in in blocks. This team just does a really good job on that end of the floor, and also on the offensive end runs it through an all-star, in my opinion, in Darius Garland, who's been absolutely sensational this year, Trevor. I believe averaging about 8 assists a game. Which is fantastic. 20 points, 8 assists a game. That's an all-star to me. So we'll see what happens there. But Trevor, the main thing I want to point out before we wrap this up is just the fact that the Cavaliers have had the 4th most difficult schedule, Trevor, or the 5th most difficult schedule so far this season. And the remaining schedule is the 2nd easiest, Trevor, going into this last half of the season here. So basically what I see and what I learned from this is that, as long as the Cavs stay healthy, like they can definitely go on a sort of a winning tear here, with one of the easiest, or arguably top 3 easiest schedule in the NBA coming into the close here, right? So, if the Cavs stay healthy, who knows? Maybe they go on a run and host the playoff series. You're totally right. So, they've exceeded my expectations, Trevor. Evan Mobley, going to win Rookie of the Year, one of the best defenders in the NBA already, top 15 or top 20. Just in his rookie season, he's been absolutely elite. So, just want to shout him out. He's been sensational. This whole team's been a surprise. They're really fun to watch. If you haven't watched them yet, go watch them. They're great to watch, and they're really exciting. So go tune into the Cavs. They're a fun young team, one of the youngest teams in the league. I believe the youngest starting lineup in the league, Trevor. So we'll see what the Cavs can do in these next few weeks. But I'm glad you brought them up. I'm glad we got to talk about them and shout a few guys out. But Trevor, I think we're gonna wrap this podcast up.
Well, one final thing before we wrap it up, Ryan. Look, I could talk about my Phoenix Suns every week, but all we do is win, and it gets boring. Okay. I haven't even been watching a lot of these regular season games because all we do is win. I saw Devin Booker, shout out to him, put up 48 the other night. That's what he does. He's a scorer.
Okay.
And I think people lose sight of that, Ryan. Devin Booker has had to adjust the way he plays when they brought in CP3 and when they learned how to win. But every once in a while, Devin Booker's going to be like, you know what? I'm going to revert to the 2017 Devin Booker and drop a 50 piece. And, in 2017, we lose by 20 when he dropped 50 points. But in 2022, Devin Booker can drop 48 whenever he wants. Devin Booker can give you 10 rebounds, 12 assists, 4 steals. Devin Booker can do it all, Ryan. And I want to say this. Can you finally admit that Chris Paul manifested this trade to the Phoenix Suns, similar to the one that happened where he wasn't allowed to go to the Lakers? Okay, hold on. Let me rephrase. I brought it up before on the podcast. Chris Paul couldn't play with Kobe Bryant. So he manifested this trade to Phoenix to play with the closest thing we will ever see to Kobe Bryant in Devin Booker.
Oh man, Trevor, I'll tell you, you are one man on this podcast on that train. I am not going to join you there. Look, do I think Chris Paul facilitated the trade to Phoenix? Yes. Do I think he did it because Devin Booker's the second coming of Kobe? No. Look, I think he wanted to go to Phoenix. I don't think he was thinking about Kobe Bryant when he went to Phoenix. But Trevor seems to think Devin Booker's Kobe Bryant reincarnated.
Ryan, do you remember the interview, Game 6, after he beat the Clippers? He goes, "I came here because of that light-skinned killer, Devin Booker." I believe were those his exact words. And you're still trying to tell me that he didn't want to come here because he saw Devin Booker as the second coming of Kobe Bryant. I don't know what to tell you.
He's no Black Mamba. I'll just put it that way. He's no Black Mamba.
You know what? You would be correct in that statement.
Not yet, according to Trevor. Maybe someday. But look, Trevor.
He's well on his way there. He's on his way there.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see how many rings he gets. Probably 0, but we'll see. We'll see if the Suns can play decent coming into the close here, Trevor. But I think at the end of the day, this is a good podcast. As Trevor said, we will talk about the Los Angeles Lakers next week. There's a lot to talk about. Russell Westbrook, will he stay on the team? Will he even be happy playing on this team?
Short answer.
Will he stay starting? Will he get crunch time minutes? He was benched last night with 4 minutes to go, didn't play into the close. So we'll see what happens these next few weeks, these next few games. But we will talk about the Lakers next week. Hope you all enjoyed, and we will see you again next week. So we'll see you later.